Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Show, the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. We're here live inside the ONN studios. It's Dave McCaig alongside Parr and Dustin Grondin. Fellas, we're going to jump right into the show. We're talking about the Toronto Raptors. The parade took place yesterday. Toronto was basically on shutdown mode, first off. I don't think anybody went to work. The parade was absolutely insane. Kawhi gets the last laugh at the end of the whole ceremony. God absolutely loved that. Carrying the MVP trophy the entire time. Kyle had the championship trophy the entire time.
Larry O'Brien.
Thank you for the correction there, Dustin.
But
they've won the championship for the first time in franchise history. 1995, the Toronto Raptors came into the league. 2019, they're champions, and they defeated the Golden State Warriors 114-110 at Oracle, the last game at Oracle. Okay, and you had a bunch of Raptors in 20 points. You had Lowry, you had Van Fleet, you had Kawhi Leonard. You also had Serge Ibaka getting 15. Pascal Siakam as well. Everyone really stepped up. And obviously Danny Green getting rough on Klay Thompson. Now we're going to talk about that in a few moments if that was clean or dirty. But Dustin, going to you, big game, big win, big change for Canada as a country as well.
Yeah, it really, puts Canada on the map when it comes to professional sports. We're only known as, that hockey country. We have one baseball team, one basketball team around Toronto. And, it was just really, Canada was really starved for any championship, not just basketball, not just hockey, though maybe more hockey starved than anything else. But, Canada was starving for a championship. And the Toronto Raptors had been on the cusp, it seemed, every year of running into LeBron and losing, and he left. And they've always been a good team, but they never had that ability to get over the hump. And then, as we all know, Masai Ujiri makes that trade for Kawhi Leonard, then Danny Green at the same time, and then Marc Gasol too. That's a guy that they don't really talk about that played a major role in this. And so they really rolled the dice, but it turned out really well for Canada.
Kevin Durant, if he plays that series, it might be a different series. All in all, he played a total of 12 minutes. He drains 3 threes. He gets out, unfortunately, in Game 5. His Achilles. Clay is out he's going to be out 6 months plus with his ACL. It was definitely a chance for the Raptors to capitalize, and they did.
The one thing that I was really disappointed is the fact that, the Raptors didn't beat a fully healthy Golden State Warriors. Does that put a blemish on it? I don't really think so, and I don't think anybody in Canada is really going, oh, well, if only we played Kevin Durant. The one thing I think the fans missed out on, though, was that KD-Kawhi matchup. I think those guys would have taken it full 100%, no foot fully down on that gas pedal the whole time. That's something I think the fans missed out on. But otherwise, Kawhi finally got his cactus, too, if you guys didn't see that during the parade. So I'm just glad that we do get to celebrate a championship.
Quickly, yes or no, was Danny Green's play on Clay dirty?
No,
I got to agree with that. I don't think so. If Golden State fans think that, definitely not. So now you had the parade. It was obviously huge. You had Kawhi. Everyone chanted Kawhi. You're staying or you're going. Now, Dustin, you've had a lot of good points with Kawhi. Staying in Canada and being the face of a nation and being the true king of the North. And now today we're getting leaks that it's between the Raptors and the Clippers, as we all expected. Just a quick reaction. Kawhi Leonard, does he stay or does he go?
Personally, I think he stays. Part of that is kind of personal hope. But to me, the only argument against staying with the Raptors is a small market. But matter of factly, I believe Toronto is the third or fourth largest city in North America. We're talking about where NBA is played. And, look at everything that's happened since the championship. The Raptors championship merchandise blew records away, right? Attendance at the parade was insane. Their ticket prices for the finals were insane, right? This is a starving group of 33 million people across Canada that now cheer for Kawhi Leonard, right? Not half of LA or really 1/8 of LA or however many Clippers fans there is. And you want Clippers fans. And you want to talk about marketability. Well, name me a bigger. Have you heard LeBron at all until the Anthony Davis trade? Name me a bigger star player
on
the planet. And if you guys
haven't noticed, Anthony Davis gets traded to the Lakers for Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and 3 first-round picks, including the 4th this year. And LeVar Ball thinking that the Lakers are never going to win again because of this trade.
Did I just go too far in advance?
No, you did.
LeVar, Stay off my TV, man. I don't care. You're doing whatever you can to get your screen time. You played in the NBA, great. Your kids are really talented. Are you over-marketing them? Are you putting them in too much in the limelight? Absolutely. Do I think Lonzo Ball would have even played better in his first 2 seasons if his dad wasn't there hogging up the limelight? Probably.
I think so, definitely. Now, this shapes up for an exciting offseason. You got Kevin Durant, who's available if he's going to go. Clay, if he's going to go anywhere. You got Kyrie Irving, who's finger pointing to the Lakers or to the Brooklyn Nets. A lot of potential moves in the NBA, and that should be all of reason for Kawhi to stay in Toronto. You know, the West is getting even more competitive, and out of the East, honestly, I still think if the Raptors bring back the same team, the only team that can keep up with them, depending what the Knicks do, mind you, but is the Bucks. If Kawhi stays there, it's going to influence Danny Green to stay Masai Ujiri. They'll make another move if needed. Maybe Marc Gasol stays. And then you go to the finals. I know who you're playing. I'm going to give you an early prediction. The Raptors and Lakers are going to be the next year's finals.
Wow.
That's my prediction right now. Sorry, Golden State fans.
So you're saying Kawhi's going to stay there?
Kawhi is definitely going to stay. Kawhi is going to stay on a 2-year max deal. The Raptors can give what other teams can't. $3 million more. Kawhi and dine, free food. And Joey Votto even offers Presto card. Come on. Why don't you want to stay?
The only thing that I think Kawhi might not like, he's from LA. He hated the winter. He absolutely hated the winter. And is that going to be what kicks him out? Hard to say. I think the only guy that really knows where Kawhi is going is Kawhi himself. The one thing that I heard from another analyst, I believe it was on Sportsnet, was during that parade, they're feeling so great and the feelings are so high. Why not announce that you're going to stay then?
That's a good point. Maybe he hasn't thought of it yet. He didn't want to take away from the potential of what how big this parade was. And I was even saying there's going to be a statue of Kawhi, Kyle, and Masai with a mural outside Scotiabank Arena. Kyle Dubas, take note if you win a championship how that goes. You got to say that right now. And also Blue Jays fans, but they've seen one. But Kawhi Leonard is the true king of the North. And he's going to have a statue. There's going to be a statutory holiday for this now. It's going to be called Raptors Day.
We the North Day, actually.
Or We the North Day. It's going to be an actual stat where you're going to get a day off work now, probably in Canada. Am I crazy to say that?
Is that a real thing?
It should be, don't you
We
think?
the North Day is real, not a stat holiday.
Oh, okay. Well, paid holiday? No.
That'd be something. That'd be something.
No,
hey,
I mean,
Masai, do you want to just call up Justin? I saw you guys kind of clowning around at the parade. So.
Quick thing, Masai, does he stay or go?
Stays.
Dustin.
Stays. I mean, for him, you know, he's built some serious contenders, and he's truly, truly talented. And I think he wants to make something. Maybe not just. He seems like a guy who's not just one title. He wants to make the next dynasty.
Then the dynasty is the North. We have the title. We're the reigning champions. Isn't that fantastic? Listeners, Kawhi stay or does Kawhi go? We'll have to wait and see. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, got Craig Hartsburg joining us for some hockey talk. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. I'm here alongside Craig Hartsburg and Alex Parr for part 2 of today's show. And fellas, we're going to jump right into the Stanley Cup Finals. The St. Louis Blues defeated the Boston Bruins in Game 7, 4-1 at the Garden. Now, if you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, I'm sure there was a lot of somersaults going on across Ontario and even potentially across Canada. And especially if you're a St. Louis fan, you get to actually see the Stanley Cup in your city for the first time in 52 years in its franchise's history. Now, Ryan O'Reilly wins the Conn Smythe. Jordan Binnington, the first goalie in the history of the National Hockey League to get 16 wins in the playoffs. Absolutely amazing. Craig, I'll go to you. St. Louis winning the Stanley Cup, man. That's big and also great for the National Hockey League.
Well, it's an unbelievable story, really, from where they came from. I believe it was the end of January. They were the worst team in the National Hockey League. And their performance down the stretch through the playoffs was amazing. And their heaviness as a team, their checking game was second to none. And I know we've talked a lot about the skill level of the skill game in the National Hockey League, but St. Louis proved that, again, defense and checking is still a big part of championship teams.
Definitely. And also great storylines on and off the ice for the Stanley Cup Final, especially with Lila Anderson being on the ice for the St. Louis Blues and celebrating with Colton Parayko, her favorite player. And how touching was that, Alex, even see that on Facebook when her mom told her that she was going to Game 7?
Oh my goodness. Anytime she was on my timeline, it just melts your heart. The one gripe I had, though, is people commenting, don't you think we've seen enough of her yet? No, give me more videos. I want to know what she's doing right now. I want to know if she's partying with the team. Heartwarming, and just to see her genuine reaction to learning she's going to go watch her favorite team play. That's what sporting's all about.
Definitely. Now, as I mentioned, Ryan O'Reilly winning the Conn Smythe, well deserving.
Oh, he was outstanding, and he got stronger and stronger as the playoffs went on, and it just wasn't his scoring and his offensive ability. His back checking, his tracking back, his overall game was so strong, and you could tell he was obviously a huge part of the leadership group in St. Louis.
Huge. And obviously the captain being Alex Pietrangelo, when he lifted that Stanley Cup, yes, it was at the TD Garden, but you know what, you lift that, you feel the city of St. Louis behind you. Gloria. When I was watching the game of one of our sponsors, Sports Center Bar and Grill, doing their Wednesday night show, and there everyone was playing Gloria on their phones, everyone was saying that. It's such a great thing for the National Hockey League to have that. We've had the storm surge with the Carolina Hurricanes this year. We've had a lot of good storylines in the National Hockey League this year, and Play Gloria was trending throughout social media. And to see a team that hasn't won before, I think is a great thing for the National Hockey League. No offense to the Boston Bruins. I know if you're a Boston fan, you wanted to see a victory, but it's also good to see a team who hasn't won win this time.
Absolutely. And it's been, maybe 130 days, I think they said, since the Boston had their last championship parade. Let's share it around a little bit. And for St. Louis, a team that's only missed the playoffs 9 times since their inception, to finally win that Stanley Cup, that's great to see.
That's a true fact, and that's an amazing fact. Now, speaking of them winning the Stanley Cup, they have a couple Sioux natives that are on that team that won the Stanley Cup. Okay, friends, Jordan Olin, Chris Thorburn, Hartsy, you know those guys too. They great competitors, great heart and soul guys for the team. And to see Chris actually be able to lift the Stanley Cup, and it was just great, especially for the Sioux. I guess we can expect a couple of Stanley Cup parties in Sault Ste. Marie this summer.
Well, you know what's really good is obviously they didn't play a huge role on the ice, but those type of guys do play a huge role on championship teams. In the dressing room, on practice days, the so-called black aces, those guys hold a lot of things together, and really a lot of times people on the outside underestimate their importance to a championship team, and I know both those kids both those players are character guys, and they and their family should be very proud of them to bring that Stanley Cup back here to the Sioux.
Definitely. Now, St. Louis Blues were in last place in the beginning of January. Now they come and win the Stanley Cup. They're fighting at practice. You got Bertuzzo fighting on the ice there at practice. You got a coaching change with Mike Yeo getting removed and having Greg Baribe go in there. And big change. That's a big change. And then you had the GM, Doug Armstrong, goes into that locker room and says, this is the team I want. This is the team I'm having to win the Stanley Cup. This is the team I built. I'm not making changes. And he really didn't. Big changes, obviously, Binnington wet net over Jake Allen, which seems like it was a great choice down the stretch, obviously, right? But for a team to be in that position in January and come to win the Stanley Cup, you don't see that too often.
It's unheard of. They talk in the National Hockey League, if you're not in a playoff spot by U.S. Thanksgiving, your chances of making the playoffs are very slim. And for them to do what they did, and it is an amazing. I know how hard it is to pick up points down the stretch in that league, and then once they got to the playoffs, they had to go through some real tough teams to get to the finals, and then again having the chance to win at home and not doing it in Game 6 to go back to Game 7 in Boston is again, it tests their character, and they came through with flying colors.
Absolutely. And I mean, to see the way that St. Louis took the game to the Bruins in the finals was something that I hadn't seen. You had mentioned that this game, a lot of people are talking about how it's getting to be more skilled game, the smaller, the faster players. Boston bullied their way to the finals and then got bullied, I thought, more by St. Louis. And they kind of got tossed around a little bit. Is this going to be something we see as more of a recurring thing? I'm not sure if it's going to keep going the Speedway or if maybe some of the brutes will come back. I can't wait to see.
I think it's the combination of skill and structure and size is what's won the Cup the last 2 years. Washington did the same thing.
Absolutely.
They were a big, strong team that had skill, but again, they were able to handle the grind. They could check, and St. Louis played that same type of game. And Boston, to me, they weren't the big bad Bruins. They were really a skilled hockey team. They did play hard. They did compete. But their game was still based a lot more on skill. So it was a great final, and I think what will move forward from this is teams understand and the National Hockey League level that you do need a combination of skill, speed, but you do need some size and some strength. Again, once you get through the first and second round of the playoffs, it's a long, long road.
I know the post game with Brad Marchand, I know a lot of fans were happy to see his tears. You know, but you know that he did mention that they took their dream away. But you know what? As I mentioned at the top, it's great to see a team that hasn't win. Now, quickly transitioning, fellas, some of the offseason moves are already starting to shape and take place. Okay, we've had in the last 24 hours, Erik Karlsson signing for 8 years, 11 per with the San Jose Sharks. You have Jacob Trouba getting traded to the New York Rangers. Today, Justin Braun gets traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. So, and obviously rumors are swirling with Mitch Marner rumors that Leaf fans are curiously waiting for, along with Nikita Zaitsev and Patrick Marleau trade rumors. But Erik Karlsson, I'll go to you, Craig. Are they overpaid, or was it worth what he's getting paid, or because he's getting around the Drew Doughty range, and a lot of people don't feel that Karlsson is at the same range as Doughty, but again, this is one of the highest scoring point defensemen in the last handful of years in the National Hockey League.
Well, he's been an outstanding player, a great player. He's had some injury issues the last few years. He's a little different player than Drew Doughty. Drew is a little bit more of a physical player that does produce, but his numbers speak for itself. And when you're an unrestricted free agent, this is what happens. You probably do get overpaid. The term is probably the biggest issue that everybody will have with the contract, because he does have some issues with his groin, his ankle, his foot, whatever it was. But that's just doing business in the National Hockey League. If you want to sign one of these great players, you have to pay, and you have to pay with some term as well.
Now, the only thing that I didn't like about that deal is they've already got Burns and Vlasic locked up at $15 million. Burns until he's 40, Vlasic until he's 39, and Karlsson's locked up till he's 38. That's just over 33% of their cap on 3 defensemen. Does that lead into problems? I guess time will tell. Do they get to re-sign Pavelski? Who knows?
Well, I'm sure they'll do whatever they can to sign Joe Pavelski.
Heart and soul.
It's definitely going to be a very busy offseason, fellas. And we talked about St. Louis Blues, and obviously some offseason news that's going to happen is going to shape up to be a great offseason in the National Hockey League. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, part 3 of the Game Sports Show. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show, part 3 of our debut show here inside ONN Studios. Dustin, Grondin, and Dave McCaig here. We're going to jump into the local scene in terms of football. We're going to kick it off with our famous In the Pocket segment, as heard on our radio show since 2015. Dustin, you coached the varsity SaberCats. You had a big win this past weekend, 24-10 victory over the Chatham Cougars. You improved to 4-1 on the season. You have also the varsity SaberCats 43-7 win over the Forest City Thunderbirds. And also the Sioux Steelers are getting a win as well against the North Bay Bulldogs 41-6. Now, Dustin, your SaberCats, great start to this year. You have a great group of guys there as well. I've had them by for some radio show guests. They're absolute beauties, as we like to tell them in the world of sports. You had Jordan Robinson-White, who was a guest on the show previously, 22 of 31 for 153 yards, 60 yards receiving. Pagnotta ran the ball for 121 yards. You had Tyler Breeken gets a touchdown. Gabe Spina gets a touchdown. Defensively, you guys were just animals. Jacob Jurich with 4 tackles. Coach Matt Primo, who is also a member of the Game Sports Show staff, praised the defense. Now, your next game's at home, June 30th against Waterloo. But talk about the success in the game this past weekend.
The success really, Dave, in my opinion, and I help out with the offense. I'm more of a good locker room guy than coach, but I do the offense with Antonello and Primo. And really, again, I found our defense setting the tone. Matt said it, and you can ask any of our coaches. Our defense is unbelievable. I'd challenge any team to match our defensive intensity, defensive skill sets. I have that much confidence in our defense, even though I coach the offense. I see it every day. We practice. Our defense is incredible. Jake Jurich is an absolute animal. Our defensive backfield with, our defense is just unbelievable. And they set the tone for us on offense. We've got some incredibly skilled players as well, but we're still trying to put it all together. We had a bit of a rough a rough go on offense, in my own opinion, against Chatham. J-Rob played better than his stats really showed. I know he had 153, but coming down the stretch, we really had to put some air under the football because they were just throwing linebackers and plugging holes. And every yard that Pags got on the ground was just an incredible effort. And then our offensive line really stepped up down the stretch and started imposing their will. And we need to start doing that right out of the gates. But J-Rob made some unbelievable throws, some ones that really flipped my gut right up in the air, a nice rollout, and there was a guy, and we needed a couple yards for a first down, and there was the safety check down, and it was probably there, and instead he floats a ball between two defenders to a guy running into the middle of the field, and you know what, it's just winners make those kinds of plays, and we have a lot of winners on our team.
You sure do. Now, speaking of wins, 4-0-1, as I mentioned, as well as the Varsity SaberCats are 4-0-1, and the Sioux Steelers are, having a 500 season right now as well. And the Steelers, this city would hear everything with your varsity team. They want a championship. They bug Jamie Antonello, I should say, Matt Primo, and yourself about getting the championship. Now, this year could be the year that occurs. Now, next game is at home against Waterloo. Big game to try to continue success this season.
Yeah. People at Sault Ste. Marie, you want high-level football. You have it coming up Waterloo. Talking to you guys at home, watching. Please come out and support our kids, young men. They're really young men. This is going to be an intense game. This is almost for all the marbles, right? This will set the tone for us. It'll give us home field advantage if we can lock it up. And Waterloo is an extremely talented football team, and this is when we need, and we can't do it without the support. The kids always play better with people in the stands and people cheering us on, and we really need this one. So if you want to see some really good football, Sault Ste. Marie, come out and watch these SaberCats games. June 30th in the Sioux, up at Superior Heights, 1 o'clock.
And definitely check out the SaberCats and Steelers as well. But moving on, Dustin, we're going to give the listeners a little teaser in terms of our cross-table discussion. Usually we have a round-table discussion on our radio show. Let's be cross-table. And when it's you and I cross-table. But we had the CFL start this past week. Ticats, Eskimos, Red Blacks, Blue Bombers all getting wins. And the Argos start this week. However, now we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quick 30 seconds to a minute here with the Steelers. How is this team going to shape out without Bell and Antonio Brown in that lineup?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, you take a look at it, and being a coach, you wonder, does talent trump attitude and culture, or does culture trump skill set, right? And they lost potentially the best player at those respective positions, and people are wondering, did they get better because of the culture and the attitude, and there's not so many rifts, and you're not reading social media, you're in the gym and having your head in the playbook and watching film, or did they get worse because you lose a guy who's automatically open and a guy who makes his own yards? And you know what? I'm really interested to see how Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell eat now that there's Derek Carr on the other end of passes and the Jets O-line, as opposed to a Steeler O-line that's been in the top 3 O-lines in the league that Le'Veon Bell ran behind. I mean, James Conner filled in quite admirably. Juju's going to get double teamed now, so we got to see how he takes the double teams. And now it's really on Ben to take a group of young men and young players and see what they have.
Definitely. Now, Pittsburgh Steelers. I know there's a lot of Detroit Lions fans, Green Bay Packers fans, and also people are coming out of the woodwork, Cleveland Brown fans. Especially Game Sports Show's own EJ Russell, who does coverage for us out in Cleveland. He's going to be having a lot of extra coverage this year. He's very excited to see what those Browns can do. And on our In the Pocket segment on Sioux Online, ONNtv, and also on radio on our Wednesday show, you can definitely check out our In the Pocket segments. We get into some big, heated discussions with that, with myself, Dustin, Jamie, Matt, and Justin Heichel. Dustin and Justin. They might confuse the listeners with that.
We're a good team.
Now, I want to jump into right now, transitioning from In the Pocket to a thumbs up that we're going to do each week here on the show. And the thumbs up obviously goes without saying. I want to give one to the Toronto Raptors, right? However, that would be obvious. I want to go on the outside thing, something that you would relate to really well. Brooke Henderson, Canadian golfer, wins her 9th championship. Leads the Canadians in that factor. Got to say, that's great for Canada as well.
Yeah. I mean, Brooke Henderson, she's been doing it since as long as I can remember, and she's still super young. Like, I don't know how old she is exactly, but I can tell you she's younger than me. And, you know, she's just an incredible golfer. And I'm telling you, it's not easy to win on the LPGA. Like, it's extremely difficult. And so the things that she's accomplishing, it's really, really good for Canadian golf.
Definitely. Thumbs up to Brooke for that accomplishment, and obviously to the Raptors. Now, I have special news here today as well. Today marks the 15th year anniversary. As posted on ESPN, Average Joe's defeated the Global Gym Purple Cobras in the American Dodgeball Association of America tournament in the championship game, overcoming a 4-man deficit. The dodgeball movie reference. Got to give them a shout out.
Really intense stuff.
Really intense. Also, a special shout out to fan and friend of myself and Dustin, Matt LaMontagne. It is his birthday today. Make sure I give him that. And I wanted to tell listeners out there, thank you to listening to our debut show of the Game Sports Show. I want to say thanks to Dustin, to Craig, and also to Alex for taking time to sit on the panel, to you, the listeners, for taking the time to listen and to see us on TV, which is an accomplishment different from radio. It's a difference from radio.
I always said you had a face for radio.
So I want to say thanks to everyone who joined me on the panel again as well, and to Sue Online, of course, for the debut show. Very excited. Don't forget that we are on radio tomorrow from Sports Center Bar and Grill at 9 p.m. You can follow that on thegamesportshow.com, thegamesportshow.podbean.com, and we're also in Northern Superior on Thursday. We will be there this Thursday at 7:15. The next week will be at the Wicked Sister on Monday. Back here next week in the studio on Tuesday for more of sports talk for the Twin Sault's only local, regional, national sports show. Wishing everyone thank you again, and to everyone out there, have a great night. Booyah.